Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be working with estimated sums. What makes them reasonable? Well, this was a very hard question when I was a kid because I liked exact. I wanted the exact answer, and I would miss these because I would add both of these numbers together and then I'd round the sum after I added them together, which in my mind was the correct way. But when we're talking about estimated sums, it's more like when you go into the grocery store and you're trying to tally all the stuff that you put in your grocery cart, so you round it. And you say, oh, well, I did round, the 7 up to a 10, and now I've got the 13, so I'm going to round it down to a 10. So you give and take based on the number. So just like we've learned to round, the first thing we're going to do is if we round to the tens. So I'm going to put tens over here. If I'm rounding to my tens place, I'm going to underline my tens place. I'm going to go next door. I'm going to say, okay, is that 5 or more? It is. So that means that needs to go up to a 7. This goes to a 0, and everything in front of what I rounded to stays the same. Unless that's a 9 where it needs to move the next one up. Because what we're truly asking here when we're rounding is 567 closer to 560 or 570, because that's the tens difference, and 67 is going to be closer to my 570. So therefore, that's the reason we say go next door. Is it 5 or more? Because we're seeing which 10 it's closer to, and it's closer to 570. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to change pens on you so you can see. Alright, so I'm going to underline my tens place here. I'm going to go next door. Is it 5 or more? It is. So therefore, that's going to go to 0, and that is going to go up to 3, and that 1's going to stay the same. Then when I add my two digits together, I can already see I've got a 10. 70 plus 30 is another 100. So 70 plus 30 is 100. Then I've got 200 plus 5 is 700. So my answer, my estimated sum to make it reasonable for tens, is 700. Now, let's go, because I'm not done. A lot of these questions, they say, okay, what are all, or choose all. And when you see that, you need to be very careful, because if you miss one that you're supposed to check, you've missed the whole question. So I'm going to write this problem again. I'm going to say, okay, now this one I rounded to the tens. So the next one to find the estimated sums is I'm going to look for the hundreds. Right, underline my hundreds place. Go next door. Is it 5 or more? It is. So therefore, this is closer to 600 than it is 500, because 50 is halfway and we're over halfway, so it needs to go to 600. Underline my hundreds place. Go next door. Ask myself, is that 5 or more? It is not. So that means 129 is closer to 100 than it is 200. So therefore, this will round to 100. And then when I add these two together, this one's going to give me 700 as well. So both of the estimated sums should be 700, even though we're rounding to the different place values. But does that always happen? It does not. Let's say that we have 437 plus 219 equals. Now we're going to do the estimated sum to see if it's a reasonable answer. Okay, so let's do our tens first. Underline my tens place. So that means, is it going to be closer to 430 or 440? Go next door. Is that 5 or more? It is. So therefore, it's going to be closer to 440. Underline my tens place. Go next door. Is that 5 or more? It is. So that means that's going to go to, it's closer to 220 than it is 210. When I add these two together, I'm going to get 40 and 20, and my tens is 60, and then I have 600. So that's my answer for my tens. Now if I round this to the hundreds place, I'm going to copy the problem down again. And guys, if you're ever doing a problem and you're not marking up that paper big time, you're not doing math. Because if you're not writing down your thinking or working through it on the paper, that's just magic. And Ms. Haycraft don't accept magic in her classroom. You got to show your work. So now we're going to go to the hundreds. And it's fine if you want to put this out beside to help you track and remember. So I underline my hundreds. So when I underline that, I'm thinking in my head, okay, so I'm asking myself, is this number closer to 400 or is this closer to 500? So go next door. Is it 5 or more? It's not. So therefore, this number is closer to 400. Underline my hundreds. I'm going to ask myself, is it closer to 200 or 300? You always do the hundreds that it is, and then one more. So go next door. Is it 5 or more? It's not, so that rounds down as well to 200. When I add those two together, I'm going to get 600. So 650 or 660 and 600 would be my reasonable answers. So this one had the same, but this one had different. And remember, estimating sums in real life could be going to the grocery store and adding up how much you have before you get up to the counter, or any store for that matter. So remember, this is estimating sums to make them reasonable.